This resource has been developed in partnership with racially diverse groups of children, young people, and educators across the education sector. We spoke to them about topics relating to racism and discrimination, including race and racism. The term race doesn't really make sense, as we're all part of the human race. Centuries ago, rich white Europeans invented this term to justify the enslavement of African people and to steal land and resources from people around the world. Race tries to convince us that some people are more valuable than others. Over the years, this has meant black and brown people have experienced serious discrimination. This is called racism. Racism can happen between individuals, in organizations, or across whole parts of society, like media and sport. If someone experiences racism often enough, they can even start to believe the racist ideas they've heard about themselves. This is called internalized racism. For some people, it's easier to pretend not to see skin, but ignoring race doesn't fix the problem. We need to speak up and change people's ideas about race. We need to learn how to become anti-racist allies. We'd like to thank the children, young people, and colleagues at St. Eunan's Primary, Drumchapel High School, and Newark Primary School for sharing their thoughts with us. This resource was funded by the Scottish Government and developed by ScotDec and WASDec.
Like, so I'll be honest. I do find times like this to be somewhat frustrating, because usually I would just spam my Telegram channel with all of the stuff that I've come across tonight, but I'm staying away from it. But as a consequence of that, some of the stuff that I've found probably won't really meet the eyes of many people, unfortunately, unless people watch this video and then they take the links and do what they will with them. But yeah, it's like still got that sort of impulse that I want to go on, but I'm staying away for now, as I said. But it is frustrating nonetheless because, yeah, again, I've ended up down a rabbit hole with umpteen tabs on my screen, and I'm going to try my best to not waffle on for far too long and kind of let this stuff speak for itself. Most of it's PDFs and whatnot, as opposed to videos, etc. So obviously, I'll have to do a bit of reading, but in terms of just trying to get the information out there and whatnot, I think that's probably the best course of action. I'll also post the links as well to everything down below. So I'm not entirely sure when this website came out. As it says here, the launch of a new anti-racist education website provides support for all levels of the Scottish curriculum. Charlotte Dwyer from ScotDec introduces the materials. Then you get the link to the website here, which is spelled incorrectly, but I just used my big brain, of course, and corrected it to antiracist.scot. And lo and behold, I was able to get access. Nonetheless, I'll just read a wee bit of this briefly before I go on. Where she says, even, we believe it is important that every young person can see themselves in the curriculum, have role models, and have a sense of belonging. This young person from Drumchapel High School Anti-Racist Club highlights the need for developing an anti-racist curriculum. And while many teachers and early practitioners in Scotland want to do this, there can be a lack of knowledge and confidence around how to do it. This new launch website seeks to provide the tools and ideas to support educators in Scotland to build an anti-racist curriculum which responds positively to the diverse needs of the individual learners where all religions, identities, and languages are recognised and valued. Just briefly here, it says that the resources even have been developed by ScotDec and WASDec in partnership with a racially diverse group of children, young people, and educators across different sectors of Scottish education. The children and young people in both Drumchapel High School and St. Eunan's, PS, and Newark gave us their views on how they wanted to learn. Lovely stuff. Isn't that sweet, bold, and progressive? Guided by the anti-racist curriculum principles, we created a suite of materials to support those working at early level, which is children who are in nursery. Yeah, early. I don't know, it just frustrates me so much. So this is the website, and it says here, resources and support for anti-racist education practitioners across Scotland. The website provides tools, workshops, and ideas to support early years practitioners and teachers in Scotland to build an anti-racist curriculum which responds positively to the diverse needs of etc. etc. The materials have been developed. I've already read that. Then you've got early level, first level, second, and third level. Then we've got creating braver spaces, policy links, other resources. So if you come on to just, for example, I don't know, early learning, yeah, this set of resources and guidance has been created in partnership, again, same fucking pish, regardless, early level, right? Using the links below, explore the anti-racist curriculum principles for children at early age or early level. Take inspiration from the practical guidance and suggestions for ways to facilitate spaces, experiences, and interactions which support principles. Okay. And then if we just go to useful resources, for example, you'll then be met with this: helping young people or young children even to think about race in early years. Seeds for Change, the tiny guide to becoming an inclusive, anti-racist early educator. I mean, wow. So then we have this guide, for example, The Tiny Guide to Becoming an Inclusive Anti-Racist Early Educator, right, by Laura Henry Allen or Elaine and Matt Lloyd Rose. Right, let's have a wee gander through this briefly. Just fucking unbelievable, man. Oh, let's see. Might have to zoom out a bit. We celebrate diversity, promote inclusion, and challenge racism and all forms of prejudice. We want every child in a tiny home nursery to grow up to do the same. We're launching this guide to reinforce our commitment and strengthen our practice. In the wake of the murder of George Floyd in the US back in 2020, a year when the BLM campaign traveled around the world and the deep and widespread damage of racism became more visible than ever. Jesus. Education may not be as visible as political activism, but is the most powerful and reliable route to enduring change. As an early educator, you can change lives and change the world. You have the opportunity to ensure the next generation grows up to be open, inclusive, and anti-racist. We're delighted to bring you this guide to help you do so. I mean, fuck me, like... So obviously this is for nursery teachers and whatnot. Starting with ourselves. To create a truly anti-racist learning environment, we need to start with ourselves and reflect honestly on our attitudes. When we reflect on ourselves, we can work on ourselves and ensure that we won't inadvertently discriminate against others or limit what we offer the children in our care. I'm at a point where I'm just like lost for words with this stuff because it's so insidious. It really is, but it's just sugar-coated as if this is like these people are on the right side of history in their minds, but it's just so fucking malevolent where it derives from, critical race theory and whatnot. But when you start working with a new family, get to know them and take an interest. This may sound obvious, but can be an easy step to miss out when people have busy lives, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. Let me zoom out a bit here. Because there was a bit in here that I found quite abhorrent, if I'm honest. Talking to young children about diversity, inclusion, and anti-racism. You can have books and resources that depict all the sections of the community, but as an educator, what are you going to do to support that? How are you deepening children's thinking through talk and play? We may be surprised by how early children are ready to have conversations about big themes like empathy and racism. Obviously, we communicate in an age, stage, and ability appropriate way, but broadly, if a child asks us a question about something, they're ready to hear the answer. Here are a few principles for talking to very young children about these issues. Very young children. Yeah? I mean, this is... Talk openly and matter-of-factly about the ways individuals and families can be different from one another, but avoid using those differences to label them. If we're reading Jabari Jumps, we would talk openly about him being black, about his background and culture, but we wouldn't label him the black boy. Oh, for fuck's... When children talk or ask about how others are different, encourage their curiosity, just as you would for anything else. Encourage them to talk about different skin colors, family structures, or disabilities, and depict them in their drawings and paintings. Role model a positive attitude to difference. Talk positively about difference in the books you share with children. Interact in a warm, positive way with the diverse resources in your setting. Diverse resources, yes. Oh, pay attention to how children interact with diverse books or resources. If they seem to be interested in something, follow their natural curiosity and ask them gentle questions. If you see children treating toys with different characteristics differently from one another or ignoring certain toys, ask them to tell you about it. Follow their leads. You could also model play with these toys as the adult. Oh my. It's just ridiculous, yeah. Some people claim not to notice colour, that they see the person, not the skin colour. Although this may come from a good place, this isn't helpful and denies the reality of our differences. It's much healthier for us to talk openly and positively rather than to ignore a person's colour. Oh man. And then it says here as well, right? This bit. Allow conversations to arise naturally. Avoid forcing these conversations. It's afternoon snack time. Let's have a discussion about anti-racism. Remember, you can use books and resources to scaffold meaningful conversations. Be sure, though, of course, to these children, to introduce words like prejudice and racism and empathy. And don't worry about them being too complicated. Children will surprise us with their ability to absorb new ideas and sophisticated vocabulary. Use stories to support children to to think through complicated issues and develop empathy. You can't just develop empathy. It's something you either have or you fucking don't. You know. If children want to find out more about something, research the answer with them online or in a book, rather than just telling them. Mhm. Celebrating difference. Children are able to recognize differences from the time they're a baby. They have that awareness, and we mustn't postpone this work until children are old enough to have a deep and meaningful conversation about it. As Abram X. Kendi has written, babies are taught to be racist or anti-racist. There's no neutrality. Yeah. So as soon as you can, just start bombarding them with anti-racist shite. Yeah. And of course, because this is recommended for teachers, particularly early learning teachers in this regard, they're recommended a myriad of different books that they could consider reading at a later date and whatnot, such as Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. Yeah. Robin DiAngelo, White Fragility. Abraham X. Kendi, How to Be an Anti-Racist. Akala, Natives, Race and Class in the Ruins of Empire. Intersections of Privilege and Otherness in Counselling and Psychotherapy. Living While Black, The Essential Guide to Overcoming Racial Trauma. Unraveling Unconscious Bias. You just think about it, though. Like, some teachers up and down Scotland will indeed have read this PDF, will indeed have taken a note of some of the books that are being recommended, and will indeed have their worldview to a certain extent shaped by the fucking bullshit that they have allowed themselves to become subjected to. And as a consequence of that, that in turn means that they begin to pollute their classroom with this mindset. Yeah. This is the problem here. This is like schools in Scotland are very quickly, but very, very slyly, due to the lack of like attention on said matter, they're very quickly just becoming nothing short of places where activists go LARPing as teachers. And it's got to a point now where they're effectively just turning children into activists. That's like the sort of intention, is it not? Everything's about being change makers now and anti-racist and global citizens, etc. You know. And then they've got recommendations for children's books as well. There's a world of wonderful books for children highlighting diversity and inclusion. Yes, that's because that's what you need. You know, anti-racist baby. Let's talk about race. So, helping young children to think about race in the early years. Yeah. Okay. Again, we're talking about children here. I mean, I just think this is insanity, in all honesty. Absolute insanity. Why should we think about racism in the early years? Good fucking question. I mean, I'm not reading through all that, but it's just. I mean, what's this? Jesus Christ, man. I mean, I don't even know. How can racism present itself in a young child's life? Racism can present itself in different ways in a young child's life. A child may have direct or indirect experiences of racism, but the impact can be felt all the same. And then they use like just total crackpot examples. A young black child being sent home from school due to their perceived extreme hairstyle. This child may feel rejected and unwanted by the school. A child having their teacher label them as being challenging when displaying the same behavior as their white peers. Yeah, I mean, this shit just doesn't happen, does it? You know, there are many examples of racism that are not listed here. Ah, God. What are racial identity and racial socialization? Racial identity development can be thought of as the way in which people develop an understanding of themselves in relation to their race within the society that they live in. Research has highlighted that having a positive racial identity benefits psychological well-being and academic achievement. Children from racially minoritized backgrounds who feel good about their race tend to have better self-esteem, etc. Okay. Education settings alongside families have an important role to play in developing children's positive racial identities. Having a positive racial identity will help children to better manage and challenge situations. Racial socialization is the process by which children receive direct and indirect messages about the ideas of race and racism in society. Racial socialization takes place in families, nurseries, and media, communities, and various other environments. Children absorb messages about the world and how it functions from their surroundings. In situations where children are not supported, they will often draw their own conclusions. Okay. Cultural socialization involves teaching children about their history, customs, heritage, and traditions. It's often used to elevate and promote a sense of cultural pride in order to counteract the negative effects of racism. Preparation for bias involves raising awareness of racial discrimination and helping children from racially minoritized groups to develop the coping skills and resilience they need for when they experience racism. In early years, this may look like a parent or carer speaking to their child about experiences connected to their racial identity, from having their hair touched or receiving undue attention, through to having a racial slur against them. Oh my God. What's this here? I've seen that there. However, the above practices are not present in all families. Conversations about race and active racial socialization have been found to occur much less frequently in white families, where there can sometimes be an emphasis on adopting a colorblind approach. Children in the early years can spend more than half of their week in this setting. These settings are important as they assist the mental, social, and emotional and educational development of children from birth to 5 years of age. I mean, that's what I say. This is the age range that's been targeted here. So what's this say? Ways to support your journey into teaching racial socialization. God, I can't believe there'll be some people that actually like fucking read this. And for more information on ways to explore your racial identity, please see the Racial Healing Handbook, practical activities to help you challenge privilege, confront systemic racism, and collective healing. Think about your current practice and your setting. Do they inadvertently reinforce bias and stereotypes? For example, this could look like hushing a child when they ask why another child has brown skin. What? Promote respect and support an anti-racist education. It's helpful to have a list of questions that children may ask about race and discussing developmental stage appropriate responses with your colleagues. Learn how to correctly pronounce the names of the children, parents, and carers you come into contact with. Talk about influential people from a range of racial backgrounds throughout the year, and not just during specific bumps. And initiate conversations about race rather than waiting for children to bring up the subject. Ah, that's right. Little 4-year-old Johnny is going to learn all about race because the activist teacher has decided it's time. Talking about race and racism is not racism. It's racist, sorry. However, silence can be harmful. Over the past few years, issues related to racial injustice have been topics for discussion in many households, especially been the case since conversations around leaving the EU began, and more recently, the murder of George Floyd, which had nothing to do with race. But, you made it all about race, and as a consequence, you used that to justify shoehorning, or should I say accelerating, the anti-racist curriculum in Scotland. A man in America dies, and as a consequence of that, now our education system across the pond has been fucking polluted by these cunts, and that's what they are. They're fucking cunts. Some people may find it racially traumatizing to talk about race. Or may just feel like they do not have the words. However, there will be times when children will ask questions and make statements about racial issues in their communities and the world around them. Therefore, it's important that these discussions are had within your team about how to handle such moments. Oh my God. Silence can also result in children using their peers to make sense of racial injustice issues and can make them feel that talking about race is taboo. Things that may impact your commitment to delivery and of racial socialization. There's a common feeling to have. Research has found that often a teacher is hesitant to discuss race and racism with children comes from unfamiliarity with and a lack of understanding of these topics. And that's why they've got all the resources for you. You know, a lack of understanding on the topic. Everybody knows what fucking racism means. Everybody knows what discrimination means. But that's not what they mean. Oh, no, 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 no. Because they're coming at it from a critical race theory perspective. Henceforth, everything you thought you knew about racism, etc. No, 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 no. You have to leave that at the door because it's now time to be re-educated. Yes, that's right. That's what they're doing. You know, it's that the total gall of these people that always do this. They always refer to everybody that they're trying to corrupt as being unfamiliar and uneducated on the matter, you know, because it's so fucking complex, apparently. It's not really. It's really not that difficult to open up a dictionary and see what racism means, you know. I think children in early years are too young to engage in critical discussions about race, critical being the operative word there, of course. And they say here that young people are able to think about complicated social constructs such as race. Complicated social constructs such as race. Yeah, you're even that, right? But you can see very much the angle that they're going with this. By the age of 5, children have been found able to understand the power dynamics associated with race. The power dynamics. This just critical race did its fucking point, isn't it? Really? Power dynamics, yeah. I mean, just young children are developing their understanding of race and how it operates in the world around them. Oh, yeah, let's just teach a bunch of little children that there's not enough brown and black politicians in the Scottish Parliament because of racism. You know, it's not power dynamics, it's demography. Children need to be supported with their emerging understanding. The presence of people from racially minoritized groups in senior positions does not mean that racism does not exist. See, you can't win. You can't fucking win. If there's no people from racially minoritized groups in senior positions, that's racism. But even if there is people from minoritized groups in these positions of power, still, that doesn't mean racism doesn't exist. It's just everything's racist forevermore. You know, you can't win. It's bollocks. But the problem is here that this is now starting to creep ever closer to the mindsets of children via their textbooks. Challenging bias, identity and intersectionality, power and privilege, race and racism, taking action for anti-racism. I mean, oh my days. Power and privilege. Oh, race and racism. The steam counters how race is a social construct, what racism is, and how it happens at a range of levels across society. I mean, strength, So anti-racist education resources, guide for teachers. So this is more shite for teachers to take into consideration if they so choose, in order to become better equipped in the field of anti-racism. You know, what better way to, you know, pollute the minds of children than to jump aboard this website and you know, fill your boots with all things propaganda. This guide provides links to a wide range of resources for any teacher wishing to become a more skilled and confident anti-racist educator. Suggestions of videos, podcasts, blog posts, and teaching resources are included to help teachers understand more about racism. Understand more about racism, yeah, from the perspective of critical race theorists. Yeah, exactly. It says as well, learn obviously about privilege and decolonizing the curriculum. Then you've got here, take a decolonial approach. This toolkit of reflective questions encourages you to critically reflect on, evaluate, and reposition who and what is at the center and the margins of the issues you plan to explore with learners. Now, obviously, they're all PDFs and whatnot, and I could go through them all, but I mean, as I've said at the beginning of this video, I kind of wanted to try and make the video a bit shorter. I think I've failed in that regard, but I'm not going to make it any longer than it needs to be, going through PDFs and whatnot. I've already gone through two, but then you've got navigating race, safer, braver spaces, and activities to build a safer and braver space in class before exploring issues around race. Understanding race, 5 lessons to help learners consider the historical context of race and explore how it is socially constructed through genetics and health case studies, including CUF. Learners will examine the evidence of structural racism. Yeah, okay. I mean, this is but it's pretty malevolent when you consider the fact that this has been presented. This is information and materials and whatnot for teachers. The intention being they're going to become re-educated, and then as a consequence, they will in time start to promote that shite in their own classroom settings. Then you've got colonialism, capitalism, and climate, a series of lessons to explore how colonialism, including the transatlantic slave trade, shapes our modern world, now including our economic systems, capitalism, and climate change, and how they're all interconnected, including a focus on how Scotland has benefited and contributed to colonialism and how it must be part of the solution. And then you've got white saviorism. Series of lessons to support learners to critically interrogate the historical roots of humanitarianism and foreign aid, key racist ideologies in the 19th century, the civilizing mission, and the white saviour complex that continue to shape narratives about Africa and the global south today. My God, man. And then it's not just limited to that, by the way. You've also got on this very website multiple resources developing good global citizens, through play at early level. Here you can find our Seeds for Change resource, supporting global citizenship education through play at Curriculum for Excellence early level. Help children to develop as global citizens. Yeah. Then you've also got shite like tackling climate anxiety in the classroom. You've got resources relating to the United Nations Children's Rights Charter and all things human rights, etc. Then you've also got, there's no smoke without fire, there's climate change resources. You can find a resource guide for teachers to support climate learning and action. Yes, turn them into good global citizens, good little activists, But anyway, I'll leave all the links below. Entirely up to you if you wish to do anything with them. And on that note, aye, later on.